After 60, the body does not suddenly fail. It changes quietly, gradually, and often invisibly. Most people expect that if something serious is happening inside the brain, there will be pain, a dramatic symptom, or something imminent. But the brain rarely announces danger with noise. Have you ever woken up feeling slightly off balance? Not spinning, not falling, just subtly unstable for a few seconds before your feet touch the floor? Or perhaps you opened your eyes and felt mild confusion, needing more time to orient yourself, to remember where you were or even what day it was. Maybe your speech felt slower in the first moments of the morning, or one hand seemed weaker until you began moving. Many older adults dismiss these experiences. They say it is normal aging. They blame poor sleep. They blame stress. They blame dehydration. But what if it is not about age? What if these are signals? During sleep, your brain enters one of the most delicate physiological phases of the entire day. This is where something fundamental comes into play: the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is the body's internal biological clock that regulates approximately 24-hour cycles. It is primarily coordinated by a brain structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which responds to light and darkness. This clock does not just determine when you feel sleepy, it synchronizes blood pressure, body temperature, hormone release, insulin sensitivity, and brain activity. When night falls, melatonin rises, cortisol declines, and the body enters repair mode. The circadian rhythm allows the brain to move into deep, non-REM sleep phases where the glymphatic system becomes active. The brain's cleansing mechanism that removes toxic proteins and metabolic waste accumulated during the day, including beta amyloid. Without a stable circadian rhythm, that cleansing process becomes incomplete, and after 60, the circadian rhythm tends to fragment. Melatonin production decreases, deep sleep shortens, and nighttime awakenings become more frequent. This is not trivial. It is biology. During the night, blood pressure naturally drops to allow vascular rest. Heart rate slows. Circulation becomes more conservative. Meanwhile, the brain activates cellular repair processes, synaptic regulation, and memory consolidation. The circadian rhythm coordinates this sequence like an orchestra conductor. When it is aligned, the brain receives stable oxygen, regulated glucose, and sufficient time to repair microscopic neuronal damage. When it is disrupted by late dinners, intense blue light exposure from your phone, computer, tablet, and even television, chronic stress, or poorly timed medications, repair becomes less efficient. After 60, regulatory systems are no longer as resilient as they were decades earlier. The kidneys filter fluids more slowly. Hormonal signals that regulate hydration respond less precisely. Blood vessels lose elasticity. Blood can become more viscous with even mild dehydration. And many older adults take medications that directly influence circulation: antihypertensives, anticoagulants, diuretics, cholesterol drugs, mineral supplements. They are not enemies, they are tools, but they modify the biological terrain. And within that new terrain, small nighttime fluctuations can have larger effects. A lesser-known reality is that a considerable number of minor cerebrovascular events occur during the final hours of sleep. Not during exercise, not in the middle of an argument, but in the deep silence of early morning when blood pressure is at its lowest and hydration is reduced. We are not necessarily talking about a major stroke. We are talking about brief interruptions in cerebral microcirculation. The brain registers them even if you do not consciously notice them. The first signal you should never ignore is recurring morning dizziness. Here it is crucial to differentiate concepts. Mild dizziness is not the same as vertigo. Mild dizziness is typically described as a feeling of instability, as if the body were slightly off balance, or as if blood pressure briefly dropped when standing up. There is no sensation that the environment is spinning. Vertigo, on the other hand, is the illusion of rotational movement. A person feels as if the room is spinning, or as if they themselves are spinning uncontrollably. Vertigo is often related to disturbances of the vestibular system in the inner ear, although it can have other causes. The mild morning dizziness we are discussing is more commonly linked to changes in blood pressure or blood viscosity. When you reduce fluid intake at night to avoid getting up to urinate, you may create mild dehydration. Blood thickens. Small cerebral vessels receive slower flow. When you stand, the brain must quickly adjust pressure. If that adjustment is delayed, you feel brief instability. Occasional episodes may be benign. Recurrent ones deserve attention and medical evaluation. The second signal is repeated confusion upon waking. We all need a few seconds to become fully alert. But if disorientation is consistent, if brain fog lasts longer than before, it may indicate that nighttime oxygenation was less stable. After 60, neurons tolerate oxygen fluctuations less effectively. The circadian rhythm should ensure deep sleep phases that stabilize these parameters. If sleep is fragmented, the brain does not complete its synaptic restoration process. Memory, clarity, and verbal speed may be temporarily affected. Does the phrase, "I slept, but I feel like I didn't rest," sound familiar? The third signal is transient weakness, tingling, or numbness that disappears within minutes. This is where we must clearly define transient ischemic attacks, known as TIAs or mini-strokes. A transient ischemic attack is a brief interruption of blood flow to part of the brain that produces temporary neurological symptoms, weakness on one side of the body, difficulty speaking, visual disturbances, but resolves within less than 24 hours, often within minutes. It does not leave permanent damage visible on imaging studies, but it serves as a warning. It signals that cerebral blood flow was momentarily insufficient. Not every episode of tingling is a TIA, but repeated neurological symptoms, even brief ones, should never be normalized without medical evaluation. Another signal is a morning headache that improves after hydration. Overnight fluid loss combined with changes in vascular tone can cause mild cerebral vasoconstriction. Add excess sodium, alcohol, or heavy dinners, and vascular reactivity increases. It is not a disabling headache. It is a physiological warning. Consider glucose. A carbohydrate-heavy dinner can cause a nighttime spike followed by an early drop. That drop activates cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones interfere with deep sleep regulated by the circadian rhythm. The brain, which should be cleansing and repairing, shifts into metabolic alert mode. You wake restless, anxious, or fatigued. After 60, insulin sensitivity declines and the pancreas responds more slowly. Nighttime glucose swings can be more pronounced and more disruptive to the brain. Hydration, blood pressure, glucose regulation, circadian synchronization, and medication timing converge every night. No single factor usually causes crisis, but together they determine nighttime cerebral stability. The aging brain is not fragile. It demands stability, meaning the repetition of sustainable habits over time. After 60, health depends less on dramatic action and more on biological precision. The circadian rhythm requires consistency, regular schedules, exposure to natural sunlight in the morning, true darkness at night. Make your bedroom completely dark without even a small light interrupting your circadian repair. Moderate and earlier dinners. When you respect that internal clock, the brain performs detoxification, memory consolidation, and neuronal repair efficiently. When you repeatedly disrupt it, small instabilities accumulate. Many older adults assume mild brain fog or slight dizziness is the inevitable cost of aging. Often it reflects adjustable patterns. The brain is resilient. When you stabilize evening habits, hydrate intelligently, regulate meal timing, and respect your circadian rhythm, mornings can become clearer and steadier. This conversation is not about fear. It is about observation. The body communicates through subtle sensations. After 60, wisdom does not lie in ignoring them, but in recognizing them early. Small, sustained adjustments create profound protection. If you have experienced recurrent dizziness, clearly distinguishing between mild instability and rotational vertigo, persistent confusion, transient weakness compatible with possible transient ischemic attacks, morning headaches, or unusual fatigue, do not panic. Observe patterns, consult a healthcare professional, review medication timing, evaluate your hydration, adjust your nighttime routine, and protect your circadian rhythm. Age is not the enemy. Ignoring patterns is. Listening to your nighttime biology is practicing intelligent longevity, protecting your brain while you sleep, respecting your internal clock, stabilizing your circulation, and understanding early signals may be one of the most powerful decisions you make for the decades ahead. This content is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult your physician or healthcare provider before making changes to your health routine. If you are over 60 or care for someone who is, this channel is for you. Subscribe for regular senior health education.